The Velkar had ruled the Andromeda sector for 10,000 years. They were apex predators in every sense, 8-foot-tall beings with crystalline exoskeletons, multiple redundant nervous systems, and a predatory intellect that had never encountered a threat it couldn't crush. They had conquered 73 worlds. They had eliminated every competing species. They were undefeated. Then they encountered the humans of Kepler 442b. The colony was small, only 10,000 people scattered across 3 continents. The Velkar sent a single destroyer to subjugate them. It seemed excessive. The humans had no spacefaring technology, no advanced weapons, no unified government. They were primitives. The destroyer never reported back. The Velkar High Council was skeptical. Equipment malfunctions happened. They sent 3 more destroyers. All went silent. Finally, they dispatched an invasion fleet, 200 warships carrying 5 million soldiers. The Velkar were going to erase this threat completely. What they didn't understand was that they were about to encounter something far more dangerous than any military force. They were about to encounter human ingenuity born from desperation. Dr. Sarah Mitchell stood in the command center buried 3 kilometers underground. Around her were the colony's brightest minds, engineers, biologists, physicists, and soldiers who had studied the Velkar extensively. They had exactly 72 hours before the invasion fleet arrived. "We can't fight them," one officer said bluntly. "We have nothing that can threaten them." "Correct," Sarah replied. "So we won't fight them directly." What followed was the most efficient genocide in recorded history. The first part of Sarah's plan was biological. The Velkar had a critical vulnerability that xenobiologists had discovered. Their exoskeletons required specific minerals to maintain structural integrity. Over the past 3 weeks, the humans had synthesized a bacterial agent that consumed those minerals at an accelerated rate. The bacteria was designed to be airborne, invisible to Velkar sensors, and incurable once contracted. When the invasion fleet arrived, Sarah released it. The second part of the plan was psychological. The Velkar soldiers landed in organized formations, expecting minimal resistance. Instead, they found an entire civilization that seemed to welcome them. No military opposition. No defensive fortifications. Just humans, visible and vulnerable, moving freely through their cities. The Velkar soldiers became infected within hours. At first, it was subtle. Itching sensations. Slight discoloration of their exoskeletons. Within 2 days, the infection accelerated. Their crystalline armor began to degrade. Their mobility decreased. Their redundant nervous systems, designed to protect against physical trauma, became a curse. The bacterial infection triggered every pain receptor simultaneously. The soldiers began dying. The Velkar command attempted a retreat, but Sarah's third layer of the plan was already in motion. Humans had infiltrated every Velkar communication channel, every navigational system, every life support mechanism. The colony's hackers, people who had spent decades learning to exploit systems, had turned the Velkar's own technology into weapons. Ships couldn't navigate. Communications were jammed. Life support systems malfunctioned. The fleet that had come to conquer an inferior species found itself helpless. The High Council watched in horror as their fleet was systematically destroyed. Not through superior military force. Not through technological advancement. But through human patience, human ingenuity, and human understanding of biology and psychology. They sent a single diplomatic envoy to the surface to understand what had happened. When the envoy returned, the only Velkar to survive infection due to advanced medical treatment the humans offered, the High Council heard a truth that shattered their understanding of dominance. "They didn't fight us," the envoy reported. "They understood us. They studied us. They found our weaknesses not through superior strength, but through superior knowledge. They defeated us without firing a single weapon." The Velkar Empire began to collapse that day. The invasion fleet had carried 5 million soldiers. Not a single one returned home. The bacterial infection spread to the orbiting ships. The High Council's own soldiers carried it back to Velkar Prime. Within 6 months, the Velkar species was extinct. But Sarah Mitchell never celebrated. She stood in her command center and watched the data streams showing the last Velkar civilization falling to the plague her people had created. She thought about the millions of individual beings who had died, beings who had families, who had hopes, who had never individually threatened humanity. "We wiped out an entire species," she said quietly to her second-in-command. "They would have done the same to us," he replied. "Yes," Sarah said. "That's what makes it so terrible. We're not better than them. We're just more efficient at understanding how to kill. We came to space seeking to coexist, and instead we've become predators ourselves." The young officer had no response. Humanity had survived. Humanity had conquered. But as Sarah looked at the data showing the extinction of an entire species, she realized that victory and survival sometimes came with a cost that couldn't be measured in battles or casualties. They came at the cost of the soul. Kindly like and subscribe channel. Thank you.